Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Methods. Have I got a pretty cool lesson for you today? We're going to go over something that is already well gone over uh, as far as you and the topic of you wanting to get some jazz ideas under your fingertips there. And that is the Barry Harris idea of the major six diminished scale, or the minor six diminished scale, which we'll also go over at the very end of this lesson. But our focus here is going to be on the major six diminished scale, and the basically the same old things everybody else is trying to tell you, but we're going to filter it through our method here, which is me playing off camera all the time and not letting you see what's going on this tiny little screen here, which is pointless, and our big visual graph paper thing here, and where we discover all our cool ideas and see the simplicity and geometry in what we do, and so we can visualize it real easy and make it our second nature, make our fretboard and all our ideas second nature is what we want to do, instead of always trying to rely on these like giant scalar concepts. It's the same information, but perhaps there's some of these things are being described in such giant ideas that limit you from being able to really be free and flow and come up with things on your own, and know how to just do things for yourself on this guitar instrument here. So let's do that today. So this Barry Harris method, there's a ton to explain about why I became interested in it, the links I could see, the important things, but let's just get right into the meat and potatoes of this lesson here, because I've already had to record it like 19 times and there's 8 million hilarious outtakes. And yeah, I just need to get this lesson out there. So hopefully this time around I'm more to the point and we get it done. So basically what we're going to deal with here to see something cool about the Barry Harris scale, which is an 8-note scale. What does that mean? It's the same as, well, it's the same as a 7-note scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Here it is in the key of C. And Barry Harris has added one more note to that. But you don't hear it, or you don't hear what to do with it, or anything really amazing when you just hear it simply explained like that. But there's so much coolness to having that extra note that we're going to see some of that today. Now, there's another thing here you can do with this scale that I'm not going to discuss in today's lesson, and that is this bebop language you can pull right out of this by knowing a way to get through the scale that goes forward, backwards, does this thing over the 8 notes, and it gives you this way to be rhythmically in a certain place at a certain time, and always find some of them cool jazz notes. And hey, it's bebop language, and if you want to be authentic, you learn that. But we're not going to go over that today. I'm going to show you something else here that is going to still allow you guitar solo goodness. There's going to be payoff here. Check this out. So the really cool thing about the scale is, getting back to the point of it being from a regular 7-note scale, as you should already know, and if you don't, leave a comment about wanting that lesson or something, it's already on this channel. A scale system has 7 chords about it, okay? We don't need to tangent off on all the which chords and what chords and all that stuff. We just know there's 7 different chords, one based on each note, okay, which is cool. And so since this is basically that scale with one extra note, there still should be those 7 chords. However, this extra note allows there to now only be 2 chords. I know it sounds crazy, but let's take a look, and the payoff is still getting better. One of these 2 chords is what's called a fully symmetrical chord, or I'm just going to call it fully symmetrical, meaning that its shape has a symmetry and its spacing has a symmetry that stays the same 4 times until you repeat. And if you say, hey, I've heard that sound before, isn't there somebody tied to the railroad tracks on a black and white film, still hoping to get untied before the locomotive comes around the bend. Yeah. Emergency. So the fully diminished chord. That's it. We'll explore it more in a second. So we need that, and then we need one more chord that fits in between. And we've got this whole system that we could visualize into something cool. Let's go. So this full diminished chord, if you see it written out on a sheet, there's a whole bunch of symbols you should know. No one taught me this. It's really pretty basic, and you should know it too. If you see a circle with a line through it, that's a full diminished chord, meaning that, you know, normally you would have a 7 in a chord, in a diminished chord. But here we're fully lowering it. You see it's kind of, that note is still compatible. It just really sends that into like uh-oh territory. So that is your full diminished chord. So just, and then those are the intervals. Sometimes when you are looking, when you're researching things about chords, you want to find a position on the fretboard. You want to say, where's that, I need that 6, and I need it over here. Let's move that 6. You're going to want to know, you know, intervals and which ones are which, where they are. So, you know, that's why we use intervals sometimes, in case anybody's beginner out there and you want to know. And sometimes you just say, okay, I like this F, or I need this F in a different spot. Let's move it around. Or you just want to analyze when you find the same shape. Someone tells you it's all the same notes. You can go like, yeah, there's the flat 5. There's the root again. There's the 6 again. There's the flat 3rd again. Amazingly, they all just jumble around and sound like all pieces of the same puzzle, just different pieces that all fit together. So it's a really cool chord and has a lot of uses, especially when the 5 chord is playing. So there's that. And there it is up the fretboard. You've got the same equal spacing and same shape, like we talked about. There's the notes you can see. Now we're looking at it by note. You can see how they all flip around there, but it's the same note, the D, F, B, A flat. And so, with that being said, let's add a C6 chord. So we're going to go to the ocean and ride on a big ship during some waves. Okay, now that's a C6 chord. I'll see myself out. All right, so C, E, G, A. We've got what would normally be a B, a 7. We're going to lower it to a 6. That's it. And that's going to help us get this entire scale down. And just think about it. We've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the A flat. There's the extra note to our C major scale. So these 2 chords are kind of what you get when you do the math here. 2 4-note chords, 8 notes, an 8-note scale. So let's see how they fit in here. Well, what happens is they make up some interesting geometry that makes them not too hard to remember here. So let's check it all out. What we're going to do is we're going to mark them down on the bottom here. Let me get some sheets moved over here. All right. So we'll document the shape below. So there's this shape down here. Maybe it's got a little bit more sonic fruitiness up here. E, A, C, G. You can hear there's music in there when you incorporate these tension, release. Purple is tension, green is release on our diagram here today. Let's move on to the next shape. We'll get them all filled in here, and then so look, we get this straight up and down shape is the next one, right on the 5th fret there for this particular scale. So here. Not the easiest things to grab quickly, but you'll get there if you practice. So anyways, when we get, the big deal was that when you get to this next shape here, you can see that this shape here that we're circling around here is like the flipped over inverse of this shape. So just some geometric interestingness there. And then you have the final chord, which is this kind of weird thing here. Not the most comfortable to play. Alright. Now when you play these, so you want to, get familiar just pulling the chords out like that. It's going to be handy in certain jazz situations. So when you have that big stretch, just skip that note because you're repeating it down here. But anyways, you can noodle around with that. It's kind of it's okay, not a bad exercise. But something cool is lurking in this pattern here that you don't see right here, but it's there and it's very cool. So we're going to take a look at that now. It's back to the hint that was on sheet 1 there with those arrows. So this is what we got here. So notice here is tension and release. The green is staying our release and the purple is tension. Well, let's just look at our release right now. We've got the green, we grayed out the purple. So we're just going to concentrate on this arrow shape here, which makes a link to itself. You don't have to think about where the other arrow is. You get this really easy for me to memorize pattern here. So I was trying to go to the 5 so you could hear the difference, and I didn't line them up right. Anyways, though, so here, I'll try that again. So you could hear definitely when the change happened there. So that's how to get a framework. You're basically getting a framework with these notes of the solid tones, and it's better to me than just like using them from the chord shapes. I really wasn't able to gander as much coolness as this, and I think that's also because we're doing what's called the choose one approach, where I've selected the notes from the triad and grabbed one of the scale notes as like a choose one. So these scale notes are like the perfect shape of a 1950s car, but it doesn't have the chrome on it yet. Those little touches of chrome that are going to really make that thing pop. And that one note is like the little chrome piece on the regular. So here's the triad, regular, predictable, a little shiner there. Sounds a little out of place there. So now, if we combine that with the 5, we see like the real magic here. You're just all you have to do. You get the same exact thing flipped over. you have the notes one fret down. You have all the notes that are going to sound cool over the 5 chord. And so let's hear it really quick. I'll play Green Arrow. Just thinking about arrows. Purple arrows over the 5 chord and trying to work back with a half step somewhere convenient, maybe walk up into the gray notes. There was what I was anticipating, which would be the green notes, but we're just trying to visualize these arrow shapes. Now here's another way I can do this. So notice these are going, what I found, not only was this interesting, but then there's all these different permutations. You can take all these different passageways. Like, for example, since I'm going to use what we'll call the gray notes here, the gray notes over the 2 chord and over the 1 chord when we get there, and we're just going to use the purple over the 5 chord. So I'm going to go gray. I'll have the arrow going toward the pickups. Then I'm going to move up to an arrow, the same arrow pointing toward the pickups on the next string set. And then I'll go back to, you'll see it here, I'll go back this way. I could go the other way. I could start here on this gray arrow down low, move up high for the 5 chord, and then switch directions going back that way. So let's try both. I'm going to go, we'll go this way first. I'm going to start low, pointing with the arrow toward the headstock. Try that. Let's try that. Get back to the beginning here. So I went like this way. If you can, I guess you're just gonna have to follow my cursor here. Then I went to this one, pointing toward the headstock. Then I ended up for the 1 chord, pointing towards the pickups here. Then I went to this green one, pointing toward the headstock, and then flipped direction, pointing towards the pickups for this gray one, and then went down, or to my 3-2-1 string set here, GBE, and played toward the pickups. So there's all of that. Here's another one. There's this one here, the combined, where they clash, the two arrows intertwine with each other here, and then they make this superstructure here, which is a mirror image of itself, which is, I just thought, that really blows my mind. Let's play this one. And go. Got away with one bad note in there, not bad. And I was trying to get to these other structures here, pull some notes in from there. And so, yeah, I just think this one is a real cool one to jam in. Gives me a lot of ideas. And once I've got, get real solid, and starts getting predictable, that's when I'll throw that in there, see if you like it. That kind of stuff. So, yeah, so now we promised, basically that's the summation of it. There's a couple more. Find some of your own. There's some other different kind of situations happening in different spots of the fretboard. There's down here. Screwed that up. So minor. I think we milked what I could show you for the spare hairs. The major 6. Minor's got this cool sound. Just play around with all these blue notes, then go to the purple for tension, and come back to the blue. Let's let's fool around with it and hear what we hear. Whoops, sorry. I'm hearing the blues. Purple. Pretty cool. Just toggling between the tension concepts and the blue minor concept there. I'm hearing the blues all day long with this basically minor six chord. So, yeah, I think that's really, really cool there. Um, yeah, just play around with the with that structure there. It really outlines the. You can hear how you've got the staples, the blues staple notes, and then you have everything else you can add in. That when you noodle and you're just pulling all these notes together, that's why there's no cohesion, there's no structure. No one's hearing any structure. They're just hearing, it's just basically all the lumber being like, oh, you need a house? Well, here's all the lumber, and they just throw it at you. Or you see somebody's actually taking the lumber and building a reasonable framework that somebody can then decorate. Now you're going to have a nice house, right? So, all right, I hope you got something cool out of this lesson, especially with those. My computer's locking up, especially with those arrows in the beginning. So, all right, leave a question or a comment, interact with the video. It'll be really important. And of course, smash like, subscribe, everything everybody else says that you really should. Please do. And I mean, look, if you're like, hey, I never knew this. This is really cool to jam over 251 with, and you just moved yourself up a notch in your guitar playing. Well, leave a like and leave a comment. And also check out the merchandise store. Buying me a coffee is actually something really cool to do. And buy a t-shirt or a big tapestry for your studio. Some cool mind's eye artwork, a bunch of other random stuff in there. So hope you like what you see and you enjoyed this lesson. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.